Okay, the next thing you need to know how to do is graph an inequality. You graph inequalities on number lines, and there's only two main components to the graph of an inequality. There's a dot or a circle and an arrow, okay? So if I want to graph x is greater than 5, this example right here, what I'm going to do is I want to indicate on this number line all of the numbers that are greater than 5. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start at 5 and I'm going to circle 5. They did that for you in the example. I'm going to circle 5. Because x is greater than 5, I'm going to shade or draw an arrow. It's kind of hard to see. I'm going to shade or draw an arrow this way on my number line. And I'm going to leave an arrow to indicate that x can be anything greater than 5. If I want to do c is less than or equal to 7, I'm going to come over here. I'm going to put a circle on 7, and I'm going to shade to the left all of the numbers that are less than 7. So again, two main components of this. If it's greater than, your arrow is going to the right. If it's less than, your arrow is going to the left. If your symbol does not include the or equal to, you're going to put an open circle. If your symbol does include equal to, you're going to put a closed circle. So let's look at some more examples. All right, so on this table here, we're going to graph these inequalities. X is greater than 3. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a 3. I'm going to fill in some numbers here on this number line. And because I'm just trying to graph the inequality, my number line can kind of start wherever I want. I'll have it start at 0. X is greater than 3. Okay, so I'm going to put an open circle on 3. And because x is greater than 3, I'm going to draw an arrow going this way. This graph tells me that x is greater than 3, but isn't equal to 3. Same thing for less than 3. It's going to look almost the same, except my arrow is going to point the other direction because x is less than 3. So again, the two main things you need to think about when you go to graph one of these is, am I using an open or closed circle? And which way is my arrow going to point? Here, x is greater than or equal to 5. Because x can also be equal to 5, that tells me that I'm doing a closed circle on 5. If x is greater than 5, that means my arrow is pointing to the right, towards the bigger numbers. If x is less than or equal to 5, then my arrow is going to point the other direction, but I'm also going to put a closed circle on 5 to indicate that x is also equal to 5. So the graph of this is literally just, if x is equal to 2, I'm not going to have any arrows or anything. I would just put a dot on 2 to indicate that's my solution. Whereas a graph like this indicates that the solutions of this inequality could be 5 or anything less than 5, extending that way. All right, back on page 20, it says to graph each inequality, and I did not fill in any of these for you in your notes, so I'm going to go ahead and do that right now. So I'm going to do 2 with you, and then you're going to pause the video and do the rest on your own, and then check your answers. So let's say so those are the first 2 we're going to do. So if I'm graphing this inequality, what numbers will make this inequality true? X is less than 4. So any numbers that are less than 4 are going to make this inequality true. remember, I said this in the previous video, but the best way that I've found to remember how to read these, remember the symbol opens up to the bigger value, okay? So if your symbol is facing away from x, that means x is the smaller value. It's going to be less than 4. If the symbol is opening up to your variable here, x, that means it's the bigger value. It's going to be greater than. But anyway, so x is less than 4. Here's 4. Because x is less than 4, that means that my arrow is going to point towards all of the numbers that are smaller than 4. But it's not going to include 4, so I'm going to put an open circle. It's not less than or equal to, it's just less than, so x can't be 4. If I put a 4 into this inequality, I would get 4 is less than 4. That doesn't make any sense at all. Over here, I have x is greater than or equal to 1. So if x is greater than or equal to 1, here's 1. If it's greater than, I'm going to draw an arrow to the right towards all of the bigger numbers. And because it's also equal to, I'm going to put a closed circle, a filled in circle over that. So I'm going to fill in some other ones for you. All right, go ahead and pause the video and see if you can draw these graphs on your own. Okay, I'm going to fill these in for you. Okay, x is less than or equal to 2. So closed circle, less than, greater than 3, open circle, greater than or equal to 0. So closed circle, greater than, less than, open circle, less than.